We're here with North Catholic football coach Pat O'Shea. Coach, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having us. It's going to be a great experience.
Coach, how important is having good leaders on the team, and have any players stepped into that leadership role?
Well, I think the leadership role is probably the most important thing you can have on a team. And again, it's something you don't see very often nowadays. So it's one thing that us coaches start to talk about early on, all the way back into the spring, who we think the leaders are going to be. And it comes in different varieties. Some of our kids are quiet leaders. Some of them lead by example, which is probably my favorite way. It's what I like to see in the kids. But so far, as we've entered into the mandatory part, I think we have, 6 or 7 kids that I would consider to be authentic leaders. They've been leaders for quite some time, and they just roll it into our football program. So we'll elect captains probably next Wednesday or Thursday. And I talked to the kids this morning about making sure they've been looking around to see who the leaders are, the authentic leaders, kids that do it every single day, just not when it's time to elect a captain. But I do think we're blessed to probably have at least half a dozen, maybe a few more that would be great leaders for us as a football team. So it's just crucial nowadays, probably more than ever.
Do the players vote on the captains?
We do. We've tried to do it different ways over my 5 years here. And so last year we settled into a way where the players will sit down next week and vote. The freshmen get 1 vote since it's their first year on the team. Sophomores get 2 votes. The juniors get 3 votes. And then the seniors get 4 votes. And we don't really put a number on how many kids we're going to elect as captain until we get the votes all tallied up. That way, if we have 4 or 5 or maybe even up to 6, if it's a real tight race and their teammates think there's 6 kids or 5 kids that are all going to be effective leaders, then we're open to have that many if it warrants.
You were talking about some of those people that have been here for 2, 3, 4 years at this point. How are those returning starters going to, especially the senior class, going to really make an impact on this team this year?
Well, I think one, they have to learn from their past. The senior class, this group of seniors, they're not my record, their record. Their regular season record is 25-2. Yeah. So that means they've woken up 25 Saturdays with a win, regular season win, and 2 Saturdays with a regular season loss. And those 2 losses were quite some time ago. So again, if they continue to build off of the program that they've helped build, a program that knows how to win, doesn't guarantee a win, but they've been around long enough now where they know what you have to do to win a football game. And so, I always say to them, the fundamentals of football is what wins you games. Making sure you don't turn the ball over on offense, making sure you're a great tackling defense. And so I think this group of seniors is well schooled in that. They've heard it from me probably more times than they want to hear it. I hope it's something that they really, really believe in. I think nowadays there's so many distractions that you sometimes forget that it's those fundamental things, whether it's fundamental in life or fundamental in a football game. If you pay attention to those few fundamental things in football, your chances of winning are great. And so again, they've seen that play out. And the few losses they've had in the regular season and the few in the off season, or in the postseason, is because we didn't pay attention to the fundamentals. And so I think there's a world of potential with the senior class, and they're very talented. But if they don't focus on the core of the game, sometimes it's not going to work out.
What position groups do you consider your biggest strengths this year?
I think all of our skills, our whole, we talked about this several times. I've talked to the kids. I mean, if you put it on paper right now, if you were to write down starters on defense and you look at just the skeleton group, the linebackers, the DBs, there's roughly 18 kids that you could have start at those positions, which is a blessing for us. Because I say to the kids, a starter to me only means you played the first play.
Yeah.
That's it. That's all it means to me. So I know some people get real worked up about that. So we do. We're blessed because I do think we have 17, 18 kids in our secondary and our linebacker core. And then when you look at our defensive line, that's the area where we'll have some new kids really have to step up. And we have some people there that will do that. And so, defensive line-wise, Andrew Stevens will be stepping into a big role. Daniel Long, of course, who had a great season last year. He's a veteran defensive line guy coming back. And so we have enough that I think, come next Friday night, we should have a pretty good rotation at the defensive line too. So, we're blessed because that secondary part of it, coverage-wise, linebacker-wise, we have just about everybody back plus some.
So you're with depth, especially on defense. You lost a couple of defensive linemen last year. How important is depth to your team? As you said, you have tremendous depth in the linebacker and secondary positions. But how important is it for you to build up that depth and experience at the defensive line position?
Yeah, it's a great question because that's the one thing we've been working on. Same thing. We're looking at making sure that we have, 7 or 8 defensive linemen total that we know can go out there on a Friday night, and no matter who we put in the game, that we don't lose very much as a team. And so a lot of our practices, yesterday, and then we'll be at a different field this afternoon, is to build that depth at our defensive line and our offensive line position. And the blessing we have this year, then, probably the last few years, is every single lineman number that you're allowed to use for a lineman, every lineman number is out there except one. So we have, when you see us on the practice field, we have a really, really big group of linemen, which is exciting because we haven't had that in the past. So as we have some of the younger guys step up and learn the position and start to fill in, we're hoping to have 8 to 10 linemen that we can just kind of move in and out of the football game and have depth so that we're fresh, we're fresh for the whole game.
Are there any major position battles going on right now? I mean, as you talked about with the amount of linemen, to having that competition at a position, does that really bring out a star in one of them?
It can do one of two things. It can really, really bring out a star,
yeah.
Or if a person's not used to competing. I think that's one thing you see more and more of nowadays, where kids sometimes aren't used to that competition. So I look at our center position. We have to replace Jack Frill. I'm not sure Jack Frill's replaceable, to be honest with you. He's such an amazing young man, and when Jack was injured last year and we lost him, it was something that took all of us to try to, patch that all together. And the kids everyone did a great job. But so with Jack leaving as a center, that's probably the biggest position battle we have right now. In fact, it's funny you asked that question. I don't know if you were listening to my meeting this morning, but that's something that I'm going to look at very carefully today and tomorrow, and go with that group and give all those kids an equal opportunity to make sure that everyone can say, okay, there was a competition for this spot, and we might come out of it. To be honest, we might come out with 2 centers. There's 2-3 kids in there that could do it, but doing it in the off season and doing it out on the practice field is very, very different. Then when we go to Avonworth on Saturday and there's a 275-pound nose guard, right 6 inches away from you. So it's going to be exciting. That's probably our biggest competition. We've had some competition in inside linebacker also. Seamus Straub is returning, so we're expecting him to be a veteran starter for us again. And then the other one was Matthias Benson, who's graduated. And so we're trying to replace Matthias. And again, he's another one who's very difficult to replace because of his speed at linebacker. So we've made some adjustments. We brought Kyle Topinski. We've moved him from defensive end to linebacker to see if maybe that's a position he can grow into, because he does have Matthias' speed. So he
has a lot of speed.
He has really a lot of track.
Speed. Yeah, really good at track.
Really good at track. So again, we're hoping that he shows us he has the physicality to play that position, because you have a lot of people, you can look good, you can play the part, but until you get on a football field and have to show your physicality, that's what we're hoping to see on Saturday once the scrimmage is over, who physically can play the job.
Has there been any training camp surprises or things that somebody that's really like a star that's really broken out in training camp?
Yesterday was our first day of hitting, so we had to alter the practice schedule because of the weather. So we didn't do as much live contact as we normally do. There were a few. I separate the team right now, and the yellow jerseys are the 9th and 10th graders, and the red jerseys are the 11th and 12th graders. And then when your position coach, if you're a 9th and 10th grader, if your position coach really is starting to get impressed, he'll give you a red jersey. And then that means you can start, going with some of the varsity groups. It's a safety mechanism too, just so we make sure that, we don't throw any. Like my son is in ninth grade. We're not going to put him with the red group, or he would be dead. So there were some surprises yesterday with the yellows. There were some yellow kids that we actually grabbed and moved up real fast. So we were pleasantly surprised by that. And then there were some red jersey kids. I thought Julian King had a great day yesterday. He seemed to perform at a real high level. So again, I think maybe after today and then tomorrow, I would be able to answer that question a little bit better.
Yeah.
Just because we were so limited with contact yesterday.
You mentioned physicality. Is there a certain identity that you want to build for your team this year?
Well, I want us to be a team that has great character. And that's one thing that since I've been here, I want to make sure if we do win, that we win the right way.
Yeah.
And I want to make sure that when we're on the practice field, we're doing it the right way in the weight room, and when the kids are in the hallways. I think that's always my number one concern, is that the coaches and I, by example, we always say that you want to follow our example, the way that we act. And so again, our over-guiding principle on our team is I want the 60 kids on the roster to act like we act. We don't use words that are considered vulgar. We don't coach from a negative side. We don't tear our players down. We're not a coaching staff that puts blame on it. There's enough of that everywhere else right now.
Yeah.
And so part of it is I want the kids to follow our rules, our role modeling. So I want to have a team of great character, but it is football. And I always, when we pray, we always ask for God's toughness, a kind, humble toughness. I make sure I add that in there. We don't want a macho toughness or a arrogant toughness. We want a kind, humble toughness. But I do think right now on the football field, it's a tough game. It just is. And so I want us to be very, very physical. And I want us to be physical during the play. And then when the play's over, I want us to get up, not be surprised, line back up, nice and humble, nice and kind, and then unleash it during the next play without any of the
Taunting or
and none of that. We don't tolerate any of that.
When the whistle stops, the play stops.
The play stops, we'll reload, and I always tell the kids, do it with a smile on your face, because people think you're crazy. This is how it is nowadays. So we want to make sure we do it in a manner that really reflects North Catholic in that two-word motto, forever true, which I completely believe in.
Will only 3 home games this year, do you think, affect the team in any way? Or do you think the away games just mean a little bit more?
I don't know. There's part of it that's kind of old-fashioned, which I like. When you grow up and you don't have everything like a lot of us have in our lives, football's football. The football field's 100 yards long. The end zones are both 10 yards, in length. It's a little less than 55 yards wide. So to me, if we get caught up with how many home and how many away games, then that means we're being distracted. So I hope the kids are just excited that we have all 10 games this season.
Yeah.
Would it be nice to have more home games? Absolutely, because it's always a great crowd. But it's still a football game, and we'll get on our bus and we'll go there. And if someone wants to allow that to distract them from the game, then I would say that's a shame.
Yeah.
It would be great for the school and stuff to have more home games, but right now we can't control that anymore. We just like practice today, we'll get on the bus, we'll go down there, and we'll control what we control. And we've done it for the last 4.5 years here, so we'll keep going until you kids get the stadium and the track and the field that you deserve. But right now we don't have it.
How do you and your team hope to be able to clear that hurdle of the semifinal game and get to that championship?
Did my family?
I'm sure you're tired of being asked that question.
No. That's a joke with my family too, because this is my 30th year of coaching, and I'm not going to tell you how many semifinal games I've been in as an assistant coach or a head coach, but it's a big number. And as an assistant, as a head coach, it's just never worked out. It's disappointing, yeah. Is it the end of the world? No. I'm proud of the kids that we've got there out of our first 4 years here. We've been there 3 times. 2 of those games, we were literally 1 yard away from winning the game, and both times it didn't work out. It wasn't anyone's fault. It wasn't one player, 5 players, 1 coach, 10 coaches. It just didn't work out. And again, I think if you go back and you look at those losses, the losses came from the fundamentals of football. The same way where you have teams that play on Saturday afternoon in front of 100,000, the same way they lose. So I know that people, being the head football coach comes with a lot of responsibility, because you know how many families love the game. I said to the families on yesterday morning, for a lot of us, there's 5 seasons. There's spring, summer, winter, fall, and then football season. And so I know there's a lot of people when we lost last year and the other 2 times that there's a lot of disappointment, including when I wake up at my house that day after the game. I mean, my family's disappointed, but it's never due to lack of preparation. It's not due to lack of support from the school. It's just, it happens sometimes in life,
Yeah.
and there's nobody that wants to get past that more than me. But if that doesn't work out in my life, that's minute compared to other things. So we're gonna try to do it again. That's the exciting part.
How do you feel that this year might be the year that you get there? Like, what makes this team different?
I think number one is the experience level. We have a lot of kids with a lot of experience. I mean, you just talked to Carson Laconey.
Yeah.
I mean, he started now since a 9th grader. So he brings a tremendous amount of experience. I also think we have a lot of kids that really want to play, authentically want to play at the next level. They just don't want to, they don't sit there saying they want to, and they really want to, so they know the stakes are high. And when we walked off the field last year after Elizabeth Forward game, that's something that you have to, that's a real feeling, and at some point, every team except one in AAA has that last day. And so I hope the kids hold on to it. I hope they don't sit back and look at it and blame this or blame that or blame this. I hope they look at it at the totalitarian of the game and say, hey, these are the things we have to do different this year if we're going to get past the semifinals. Because we ask ourselves that as coaches all year long. And so, again, we're prepared to try to get the kids back there. But ultimately, it's their team. They're the ones that make the tackles. They're the ones that score the touchdowns. We try to put them in positions to do it. So I think we have a really good opportunity to go back there. But like I told the kids last week, if we invite distractions into our life, man-made distractions, if they invite social media to distract them, if they invite things that are going on outside of our football team, if they allow that to come into our team, if they don't go to school and behave, and we start having issues with behavior in school, and they invite that onto our team, then we won't make it back there. There's enough distractions already that if we don't focus on being really good people and really good students at North Catholic, the wheels can fall off real fast, and they'll blame somebody, and it'll probably be myself. But if they sit back and actually think about it, if you invite that into your life, it's going to have an impact on the football team. So, we try to make sure the kids know that we're going to be really, really good people, and if we do that, our chances are good. If we don't do that, we'll come up short again.
Coach, thank you for taking the time to talk to us. This is a great interview.
We really appreciate it. Have a great season.
Oh, thank you guys for doing it, man. Anytime.